tell our friends what do they say? Ooh la la, wake up a little Susie, wake up a little Susie. Well, I told your mama that you'd be in by 10. Oh, Susie, baby, looks like we goofed again. Wake up a little Susie, wake up a little Susie. We gotta go home. Wake up, little Susie, wake up. Wake up, little Susie, wake up. The movie wasn't so hot, it didn't have much of a plot. We fell asleep by 2 cents, took our reputation and shot. Wake up, little Susie, wake up, little Susie. Well, what we gonna tell mama? What we gonna tell pop? What we gonna tell our friends? What we gonna say? Ooh la la, wake up, little Susie, wake up, little Susie, wake up, little Susie.
Hey, welcome to Startalk. You got Colin here with you, and we were just listening to Don Everly with Burton Cummings and his band doing Wake Up Little Susie. And the reason that we put that on is, as you may have heard, Don Everly passed away at the age of 84. So we have no more Everly brothers, but their music will live on in our hearts for a long time. So we've got some special guests on this show, and I'm thrilled to be able to be here with both of them. Many of you that are just joining us, you know Marty Kramer. He's the quintessential tour manager, and we also lost someone else from the Rolling Stones today, Charlie Watts, and Marty's going to talk a little bit about that. Why don't we just bring Marty on? He's no stranger to Startalk.
Hey,
he's
how's everybody tonight? How we all
He's
doing?
our road manager and tour manager, and knows everything about collectibles. And he's here on Startalk tonight, and we're excited.
Hey,
so, Charlie Watts. What about that, Marty?
Tragic. Prince of a man, best dressed Stone there is and was. But years.
And you wore a shirt for the occasion, as did I.
Yeah, I wore. Let's see. I'll see if I can show the. Yeah, this is the original 1975 tour shirt original, and then to honor Charlie and our fans, I brought in a piece here, which happens to be the Voodoo Lounge framed, signed by them. It's the ad mat, cardboard ad mat that they used. So I got one on the tour, and then I asked them if they'd sign it for me, and they did. So that's pretty cool. And then, of course, living on the West Coast, I thought, if Burton can do Elmer Fudd, we can do the Rolling Stones with their Voodoo Lounge personal roof. For all you guys, you had to be a part of the tour, and that, which I was, to get this. Anyways, personal roof. It's not raining, but I'll show you what it looks like. And when it rain, if you bend down, the water just pours off you. So that's your personal roof. So who knows? I could be a chef, I could be a fisherman, but I'm back. So those are the two things I had to show you. Rest in peace, Charlie. Yeah, like Colin says,
What was Charlie like? He was awful quiet and soft.
Charlie was the quietest of them all. He was the type of guy that when the show ended, they came down the tarmac and the van was there. And I drove the van and I took them from the theater right to the hotel downtown, the Four Seasons, most of the time here in Vancouver. And hardly anything. You just throw a towel over each of them. They go in and they're almost silent Sam. Mick on the right, Keith, him, and at the time, let's see, Wyman, because Wyman was in the band then, yeah. So all of them very quiet, nothing, almost nothing. And then straight to the hotel, and then next day, the next show, whatever was required. But he was a very quiet guy. But on stage,
starting to get people coming into the chat. Welcome, Kareem. Welcome, Will.
Sure.
Welcome, Valerie. Welcome, Ray. Jason, what's up? Star Talkers. Austin, good to see you back. Let's go.
Oh, yeah, Austin's good.
Dan knows every Guess Who title and song.
Oh, that's
and
great.
For those of you that we've got a very, very special guest. I'm so honored to have him here today. And we're going to bring him on in just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about Don Everly from your perspective, Marty.
Oh, from my perspective, I was fortunate. For the people that didn't see it, it's on YouTube. It's called In Session, Burton Cummings and Don Everly. Gary Peterson, the drummer of the Guess Who, Burton, bass player by the name of Ian Gardner, and myself in the late 80s were touring Canada with a trio. Gary on drums, Gardner on bass, and Burton on vocal and piano. Myself, the tour manager, and Burton's personal manager. The bottom line, we ended up in Hamilton. We're staying at the Connaught Hotel. We're having breakfast. Burton and I are sitting there, and I tapped Burton and I said, "Hey, take a look over there. Don Everly." "What?" He says, "I love the Everly brothers. They're my favorite guys. What great harmony and everything." So I says, "Give me a minute." I got up, I went over, I said, "Excuse me." I didn't say anything to Don. I said it to this other gentleman whom I didn't know was the producer of a show called In Session. So I introduced myself. I said, "Hi, I'm over there with Burton Cummings. Burton's a big fan of this gentleman here, Don." He says, "Boys, come on over." So we went over, joined them, sat, and then he pitched us. He said, "Listen, Don's in town doing a series called In Session. Phil's not with him. So he says, we need somebody that can sing with him." So I said, "Sing with him?" I said, "He's sitting right next to you, Don." Burton. So thus the uniting of Burton and Don Everly, Burton seeing his famous artist, myself putting it together, going from there to the studio, notifying Gary Peterson, the drummer, Gardner, and then we realized we got a trio. We haven't got anybody to play guitar. So I phoned Dominic Troiano, who lived in Toronto, who was a former Guess Who guy, and I told him Peterson and Cummings are in Hamilton. I'd love him to come to see the show, but I got a gig for him. I need him to play guitar with Don Everly. He says, "I'll be right over." He says, "Hey, I got a buddy named Brian Russell, who's basically a guy who's played with everybody. He's like a studio guy, session guy." He says, "I've got him." I said, "Bring him. We're doing a session." And then we went in and we did a whole series of songs, just like the records. But Don was the nicest man. And that was, let's say, for the sake of discussion, late 80s. Turn the clock ahead to the mid-90s thereabouts. I haven't got the exact year. What do I get offered? I get offered the Everly Brothers reunion tour for Canada, not for America, not for the world, just for Canada.
Wow.
I said, fine. So meanwhile, I end up on that tour, and Larry Luden, all drummers will know.
Well, speaking of drummers, before you get into that story, we need to verify that last story. Welcome, Kevmo. Welcome, Richie Harrison. Nice to see you guys back. We're going to bring on one of my favorite drummers of all time. He plays and still does with Canada's #1 rock band of all time, with more hit records than we can all remember here. Let's welcome to the show Gary Peterson to verify Marty's story, because he was playing with Burton and Don Everly at that In Session video that we watched at the beginning of the show. Welcome, Gary from Florida. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Was I there, Marty? I can't remember.
I think you were there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you were the drummer, remember?
Yes, I do.
God bless you.
Thank you
for coming on. You're a wonderful man. We love you.
Yeah, I love you guys too.
So Gary has played on some of the biggest records of all time, and for some of the young folks in the chat, some of those big songs were American Woman.
And Colin Weeb's records too.
That's right, you did.
That's
you played
right
on my records.
Hey, there you go.
Now I'm blushing, but
It was fun.
that was so cool. That was a lot of fun to do that.
Yeah.
But I was setting up the big intro for you with American Woman, These Eyes, Laughing, She's Come Undone, which was my favorite song that you ever played on. And you've got the gold records on the wall.
Oh, lovely.
Okay.
There's enough of them there. Tell us how many albums and how many years you played from its inception. Take the fans through when it started right up to present.
Well, of course, Burton was not the singer when we first started. We were Chad Allan. We were first Allan the Silvertones, who changed his name to Chad Allan.
History.
We were Chad Allan and the Reflections, but there was a group in Detroit that had a song called Romeo and Juliet called the Reflections, so we had to change to the Expressions. And with that band, we had, I think, 3 records, 3 albums, or 4 albums on Quality Records before we released our records in the States. And Shakin All Over, which was on Quality, was released by Scepter Records out of New York City.
Right.
It became a big hit, and we sold 500,000 copies. Oddly enough, I have a silver record, which is a very rare thing. You don't see many of those. And after that, we kind of floated to several other record labels in the States. And finally, in between Shakin All Over, which was late 65, in 1969, 68, actually, we met Jack Richardson, our producer, who would be the producer of the band. And he recorded us at Phil Ramone's studio in New York City. And that album that we recorded there was the Wheatfield Soul album, which RCA picked up, and the rest is the history that you see with all the hit records.
The big song was These Eyes.
These Eyes, yeah.
Got it all started.
That album, yeah.
Wow. I was going to put in the chat if anybody can think of the very first single, but you mentioned it, Shakin All Over, with Chad. And it was great. We had Chad on a Let's Talk Rock, Marty and I, some time ago. And it was great to hear his side of the story, too.
A very talented guy. Very, very talented. And one of the nicest people you will ever meet.
Oh, absolutely. Salt of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So we're people are coming in the chat asking questions. It's cool. It's wonderful that we're live. Tell us about those early days of the Guess Who and just the thrill. You guys went to England and you had a big hit running up the charts of These Eyes, and you must have been scrambling to write more songs. They must have just, this was around the time of the Beatles and the British invasion. It must have been thrilling for you you must have been how old?
I guess I was around 17, 18, 19, 20.
So still a teenager. Wow.
Yeah. Going over to England was before These Eyes, and it was probably around 67 into 68. And we came back horribly in debt from that trip. And fortunately, we got the CBC television show at that time, Let's Go, which was where it's was from Winnipeg, and eventually became the band on that show. And that was really the training ground that allowed us to create the material that people would hear later in career. And we were very fortunate to have that show and do that during the week and then go and play weekends.
Yeah.
As far as we could drive from Winnipeg in one night. Sometimes 400 miles, right? And we did a lot of driving because Winnipeg is not close to too many things, major centers. So we had lots of road legs before we were
definitely
hit with the big
Million Mile Club.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well,
But
tell us about.
that was really the show that kind of pushed us. I mean, at that time we were one of the biggest bands in Canada already.
True.
We had
Absolutely.
hit records with Chad Allan on the radio in before Burton joined the band,
Right.
and it just kind of continued and grew as Burton came into the band. And actually, they were both in the band at one time, and I kind of hoped that they both would stay in the band because it was kind of like having Lennon and McCartney. You know, Lennon was a harder edge singer, which is like Burton is or was, and Chad sang an awful lot like Buddy Holly.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And so I thought, you know, this is like having two great lead singers in the band, but it just kind of never worked out. I don't think Chad took too well to road life, you know, and he had a lot of trouble with nodules in his throat and everything. So he finally just left the band, and Burton then was the singer for the history of the original band.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of those tracks that you played on, and there were so many. Most people know about American Woman and These Eyes Laughing, She's Come Undone, No Time, but there was also the Share the Land and Hand Me Down World, and you know, Do You Miss Me, Darling, and that whole era. Take us through the beginning with Randy, and then the transition to sort of the heavier Guess Who.
Well, I mean, we were a four-piece band, and you know, the very first hits, These Eyes, Undone, Laughing, No Time, and American Woman were all with the four-piece band. So that means guitar, bass, drums, and keyboard.
Right.
Once we had those hits, it was sometimes hard to reproduce those songs because Randy would play like 6 guitar tracks on any given cut. And when you went out and played the songs, it wasn't near the same. And I think when Randy left the band, I had, you know, we were looking at Kurt Winter and Greg Lescue as being the logical guys from Winnipeg that would be in the band. Which one would we choose? And I said, why don't we do what the you know the southern rock bands do? They have 2 lead guitar players. You know, because when one guy is soloing, the other guy's laying the rock rhythm underneath, you know. And I was really the proponent for having that in the band. And that's how we got Kurt and Greg in the band. We didn't choose one, we took both of them.
Wow.
So it changed the feel about what you could do, not only in the studio, because you still did acoustic overdubs and stuff like that, but live, when we were playing American Woman, and the guy and one of the guitar players is playing the lead line, the other guy is comping the underneath. Whereas when Randy was in the band, once he started to play that lead line, there was no rhythm behind it except bass and drums.
Wow.
So it was a whole different ball game, and the music went in that direction. We were able to do, and it's funny because the original Chad Allan band, Allan and the Silvertones, had a rhythm guitar and a lead guitar. So it was really a 5-piece band, which morphed into a 4-piece band, which morphed back into a 5-piece band. And then when we got rid of Kurt and Donnie McDougall out of the band, it went back to a 4-piece band with Donnie Soriano. So we were quite a schizophrenic group of people there.
But you were the constant. You were always the backbone and the backbeat.
Godfather of rock.
Oh, the catalyst.
Definite.
Yeah.
The glue that keeps it together.
Yeah. I never thought of it that way, but I guess, yeah. Well, the drummer in most bands are. I mean, if you listen to American Bandstand, the old rock show, when they would have a record on, rate the record, and the kids would dance, and Dick Clark would say to them, "How do you rate that?" And they'd say the couple would say, "Oh, we give this a 90."
Oh,
And he said, well, why did you rate it? And the other one was only like a 50. They said, it's got a good beat and we could dance to it.
oh yeah.
So,
Hey,
And
that's
it's
a,
still
and
happening
that,
today.
and every time he asked that question,
he got
American Bandstand, that was the answer.
he's got a
So
good beat and people can
that's
so
it.
let's get your thoughts, as Colin had mentioned earlier in the show now, transitioning out of that. They wanted a little bit of a verification when you were in the green room in the guest area prior to us bringing you on. We were reiterating a few stories about Don Everly, at which point I told them you were there. So they wanted to take a break, bring you in, and continue now. You're there. You're getting ready with Don Everly. Take us back then when you had Troiano, your friend, Burton, Brian Russell, yourself, and Ian Gardner, and you're on drums and you're in a booth. Let's hear it from there. What were your thoughts at that
It
point?
was dark in the booth. I couldn't
Pardon?
see. I couldn't see anything in the booth. I
Yeah,
thought
no lights.
it was like no. I mean, you know, it was over before it started because when I first joined Allan and the Silvertones, and even before that, when Randy Bachman and I had our very first band, the Embers, we did all those songs.
Yeah.
And then we did them in Allan the Silvertones up until the time that we had all our own hits, and then you don't play anybody else's
No
hit.
more covers. Yeah.
No more of that. So being there and doing that TV show with a person that musically I grew up with
Yeah.
was so out of world an experience that I just played the music when I was there, and I kept thinking, wow, this is who knew this was going to happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think you don't think about it while you're doing it. What you think about is all the years you spent playing these songs, and now you were playing it with one of the guys that sang
Wow.
that song.
Yeah.
Nobody gets to do that very often.
Well, I remember doing it with you and Randy and Donnie McDougall on Salt Spring, and Donnie and I not only playing the Guess Who songs, which was a thrill for me, but also playing some Everly's. And
Yeah.
I remember that night at the Harbor House in Salt Spring, it was either you or Randy, and said, you can't buy vocals like that. And that was one of the gifts that Donnie brought, was when him and I sang Everly Brothers songs together. So
Well, you really have to have two lead singers to do the
Yeah.
Everly. So in most of our bands that we had, there was one lead singer and a guy that kind of thought he was a lead singer. Right? So it wasn't the best replication of them, but and also I used to think about, these guys were such good looking guys, and the TV shows, and when they came on stage, and the girls would go absolutely crazy. And all of these things were going through my head while we were playing these songs, you know.
Jeez.
It's like part of your early teenage years. And that was a very special time.
Now you also took one of the songs, Lucille, and we had a little chat in the green room before we came live to you fans. You mentioned that your band also recorded Lucille.
Yeah, it's available somewhere on the internet. You can download it, and I think if you listen to that song, you'll think it was Little Richard.
Really?
Yeah, that is my all-time favorite, along with Honky Tonk Women, which that's another story for a little later in the show.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one of the songs I always wanted to play on. And
did.
I thought, when Derek Sharp joined the band, I said, this guy can sing this song.
Ah.
And I said, I want to record it, but we're not going to do a different version. We're going to do it exactly like Little Richard.
Wow.
You can't improve on that. It is what it is. And so finally, I got to play on that song. and it has been one of my favorite old rock tunes of all time. And so I finally got to do it, and now it's out there forever.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true.
Got some people in the chat. Somebody's asking about the gold records on the wall. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Well, they represent my college diplomas.
The School of Rock.
Yeah, I mean, most guys have PhDs and dental or doctorates, and these up behind me are my. This is what I've done with my life, and I mean, some people find them. You know, I know there's been members of our band that will put them in a box somewhere and just not have them at all, but
Right.
every one of them has meanings and memories to me, not only about the recording and the playing of the songs.
New Kashi soft baked cereal bars made with.
When we talk to people on the road, they also are parts of their lives. And
There it is.
yeah, that's.
There it comes, baby. That's the man himself on the drum. Yeah. Give it to him, Al. Bum, 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 bum.
You want to your sister's will.
That's the Guess Who.
That's it.
You want to your sister's will.
Feel that
Fantastic.
drum.
You never met, but I love you still. Lucille, please
Kind of like the rhythm of a train, isn't it?
Well, that's like
Lucille.
when this song comes on and you're in a nightclub or somewhere. If you don't get up out of your chair, you're
Oh,
dead.
you're dancing, jumping, everything. You can't sit still.
You're completely so. And if you really listen to the original record by Little Richard, and we did a lot of the things that he did, like overloading the vocal mic to get that harsh song.
Distortion.
Yeah, it's an overload situation. It stood up. It's like when I put the Everly Brothers, going back to them, their records, Kathy's Clown or any of those records, you put it on those big speakers of mine that you have, Marty, those studio
Yeah,
monitors.
the beautiful ones
When I first got those speakers,
Yes.
I had the Everly's Greatest Hits CD, and I put it on. The production was like it was done today. It was that good. And that song by Little Richard for the technology they had, if you truly listen to it, it's like the fidelity and the rock sound. That is rock and roll.
But they also had a great drummer. When
Well,
they did the reunion, Larry Luden.
yeah,
You remember Larry?
yeah, but
And he-
Larry London
Luden.
yeah. Little Richard didn't have a bad.
No, not at all.
Carl Palmer's
Yeah,
from
yeah.
New Orleans.
Yeah, too bad he couldn't play.
Yeah, yeah. But that's the song that I love the most, along with when I heard Honky Tonk Woman by the Stones. I said, this is rock and roll. This is it. That's what it is. If you want to tell somebody what rock and roll is, you listen to this. That's rock and roll.
Any memories of Charlie Watts from you, Gary?
Well, unfortunately, most people didn't get that close to the Stones at any time. But when we played the SARS concert in Toronto, and that was with the Stones and AC/DC, Rush and Us, and many, many other stars, Canadian stars and American stars. We had a picture taken, a group picture with the whole cast. And it's funny, on the way back, I was walking one way and Charlie Watts was walking the other way, and I stopped and I said, Charlie, and I introduced myself and told him who I was. And I said, I have to say to you, thank you for all the fine work you did on the Stones records. And thank you for inspiring me to become a better drummer.
Wow.
And so today, when I heard the news about his passing, I was on the way to this studio, to my studio here and office, and I was going to practice. And I sat down and I turned on I listened to the different stations on Pandora radio to play with them. And the first song that came on when I sat down on the drums was Honky Tonk Woman.
Honky Tonk.
No.
And I was about to fall off my chair.
Yeah.
And so I sat there and I played the song, and I played some other just playing like Charlie would play. And I truly mean this. I still practice every day or every second day, because I'm still trying to become as good a rock drummer as Charlie and Ringo Starr were. And people understand how much they meant to those superstar bands, the Beatles and the Stones. And he will be missed as a musician and also as a great and elegant gentleman.
Yeah, there they are. There, the Stones on the screen now. Yep. Well, there he is. Charles Wyman. Mick Taylor replaced Jones.
We change a little bit as we get older.
Yeah, it's a little bit. There's the Hells Angels right in front.
Wow.
So, Gary, you spent some time touring with Marty. We got any Marty stories? I know there's people here that have listened to Marty now for a couple of weeks. They're starting to get to know him.
7 weeks.
7 weeks. This is the 7th show.
Oh, my.
Lucky 7. We've got Gary with us.
Any funny, fond memories of Martino?
Oh, well, there's hundreds of them. He used to come back with trunks full of stuff from garage sales and little cars and collectibles, and he knows more about what things are worth. And I told him that you should start a store. One man's garbage is another man's treasure.
Right. And then I registered the name One Band Garbage. I own it.
You should.
I did.
Yeah.
One man's garbage is another man's gold. You're right.
So, yeah, and I mean,
That's good.
we go back so far that there's, I mean, after I get off the broadcast, I'll think of a million stories. But some of them.
And we're going to meet some of the fans in the green room after, those of those that are star token holders.
Gary won't be able to join us because he's got to have an early night. And
that's right. You're flying out.
So he can't stick around. It's 3 hours difference where he is now.
We're going to play the Alaska State Fair and Portland, Oregon, and Detroit and Minneapolis.
Wow, still touring after all these years.
Yes, I love it.
So when you get on stage, and I know you've been playing these hits all your life, is there one song that just touches your heart every time you play it? It's just you just can't play it enough times.
Undone.
But
on the other hand, it's like a rotating circle. You one night you go, oh my, I gotta play These Eyes again. And then one night you'll start it and you go, wow, this is a great song. So it goes, because of the repetition of doing the same thing over and over again, you rediscover it all the time.
Yeah.
You get tired of playing it for a while. I don't mean tired to the point where you don't like playing it.
Yeah.
But it becomes a bit of an exercise sometimes.
In muscle memory.
Yeah, you try not to make, I try to, when you play the same 14 songs for 51 years, you gotta understand that I'm wishing to play some more and different. I would like to play some of the other cuts and I invite people you really need to, if you really want to discover the Guess Who, take those 13 albums and don't listen to the hits. I mean, listen to the hits, but go and listen to the other cuts. There are some very crazy and interesting things on the albums. And I will listen to the songs when I'm flying. A lot of times I go through our material and I'll pick an album and listen to that. And I'm often amazed at what we attempted to do on the records.
Wow.
Do you have an example? Because I've listened to those 13 albums all my life.
Well, listen to Straighten Out.
Straighten Out?
Yeah, it's like the Four Freshmen.
Yeah.
It's a jazz quartet vocal.
That was pretty cool.
You know, and if you listen to some of the other cuts, they're like little symphonies with different parts that have different movements. It changes from one thing to another.
Showbiz Shoes.
Yeah,
Glamour Boy.
There's all kinds of different song, and if you'll find a country tune on almost every album.
Yeah.
If you look at it, so it was very
like I can't live with you. Remember that one?
And one of Burton's greatest vocals that he ever did in his life was on a more obscure album towards the end of the band.
Yeah.
Called EY. Yeah. Listen to that song and listen to his vocal.
No,
that's the one with Dominic Troiano on it.
Yeah, he never sang, or Shopping Bag Lady.
Yeah.
He never sang any better than that in his life.
Is that right? Now, Straighten Out was on Road Food, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
I got it. So, here.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Here we go.
Well, you need to do a program with me where we can do deep cuts. You know, and let me pick some interesting cuts for people to listen to.
Oh, for sure.
That would be fun. We'll do that on Let's Talk Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we are.
Well, you asked me to be your escort.
Straighten Out.
On graduation day. Wrote me a note. Here's what you wrote. You cried. And your tears were killing me, baby.
Yeah, the Four Freshmen.
I just can't understand why it is you told
Yeah.
me. Give me a break. I never did anything to deserve what I'm getting. Straighten out.
No, that's a band that did American Woman. So you thought you want to talk about psychotic, but you have to understand the band was influenced by all genres of music, and we were coming at music from every angle. So, you know, we would have a country flavor on something, we would have a jazz flavor or symphonic in some senses.
Country and rock and jazz and harmony, and it was all wonderful.
Well, it's music. That's, you know, these are the things that influence you and make you want to be a musician.
Right.
Like, you know, I had one season when I wasn't playing rock, and I played a whole season with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra. That was a wonderful.
Right.
Wow. Because I have a great love of classical music.
And well, you started out too as a jazz drummer, no?
Yes.
You played traditional grip and Buddy Rich style.
Yeah.
It looks like my battery is going to go soon on this.
Plug it in?
Yeah, I can do that, but I'll go over here.
Okay, go over there.
Why don't we take this moment to bring Garnet on?
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
He can give everybody that's here a bit of a Starwire update. Well,
GC.
Hey, guys.
Yes. Hey, how are you?
I even wore my Garnet shirt tonight in honor of both Gary and Garnet.
I saw that. The Garnet amp.
Kurt Winters
power
is now cheering you on.
In honor of Kurt, I'm wearing this shirt.
In honor of Charlie, I'm wearing this shirt.
There you go.
So
sorry, Garnet.
Yeah, what a privilege for me to be just listening in on this, Gary. I've got my own personal favorite. American Woman was a big song that influenced me. And, really we talk about, the beginnings of these songs and sort of what created them. And the power is that they continue on. I'm surprised. My daughter, who's 15, she's learning guitar, and I'll listen in on her room, and kind of without any me prodding, she's bringing up these old kind of blues vintage tunes, and I'm like, wow, like where are you coming up with this? And she's just like, I'm hearing music, whether it's from Spotify or whatever, but even the young generation, they're able to pick out those classic great songs, and just they're drawn to that music. So
well, see, they don't have to go and find it in a record store. Their record store is on the internet. They
Yep.
don't have to leave the house to discover that music. We used to have to, once music was gone, so many masters have been lost from rock groups and from different people.
Yeah.
Marty has them all.
Yeah, Marty has
I don't have them all. I
but,
wish.
so,
I know guys that have a lot of that stuff.
yeah. So kids today, and that's why we have such great musicians today, because they can learn off the internet. We didn't have that. We had listening. We listened to records to learn how to play, and they can do it. There are tutorials on that. You want to find out how to do something, just Google it, and it'll teach you how to become a car mechanic, right? If you really want to do that. So
I literally remember being on the road with a box of quarters sitting beside the jukebox, and every time the record would end, we'd put in another quarter, pick up the guitars and the lyrics, and get to that part. Okay, what is that chord? Oh, okay, it's gone again.
And now they have all of that on a little device that you hold in your hand, and you say, "Beam me up, Scotty."
That's right.
Yeah. So that brings up the topic of technology for tonight. And the one I do want to talk about a sort of a new technology that's emerged in this year, called NFTs. And as we were looking at the gold records, the platinum records on your wall, it kind of really made me think, what those really represent. There's a value to those. And what makes those valuable is that you just can't go to the store and buy it at Walmart. Those are extremely rare, and you have to earn it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
but
in the same way,
you need fans. Again, the end part of the equation is the fans going out and buying those records and putting you up on that stage.
Exactly. Those records represent the energy of the fans, the buying power. You could say the economic energy of them purchasing your music is represented there. And in the same way, I'm going to bring up kind of the screen here. NFTs, which we see something is happening in both the art world and the music world. A new technology is emerging, and fans are engaging with this technology as a way to, I would say this represents economic energy when we see $150 million moving, purchasing power. And, these represent communities. It represents artists who are producing things. And of course, in Starwire, we have, we like to describe it as fractional ownership of movies and music. So when we think of some of the great hits from 40 years ago, 30 years ago, we know right now somewhere there's a brilliant young or old kid writing a great song that's going to last for the next 20 years. It's going to be a great tune. And we, from Colin's background in the music business, my background in the film business, we knew there needs to be a better way to lock in that value for the people who are producing that music, those movies. And, the simple way to describe it is fractional ownership. Did you have a comment, Marty? Or
No,
just think of it like collecting singles in the old days, how
Yeah.
valuable they were. Remember that?
I have a comment
Okay.
as an artist. So
Okay.
let's put it in perspective for the audience.
Yeah.
Most artists make a minuscule amount of money off of these gold records. And by that, I mean, in my day, an album sold for about $3.50.
Right.
We had maybe 8 or 10, let's say 10 cuts. That was lots on an album. Yeah. They would pay us 10 cents on every cut for every record that was sold. Now, that was the royalty. That was after they recouped whatever costs they put up, the record company put up for
their expenditure,
promotion, studio costs, all that came off the top. So really, the artist was not getting that $3.50.
No.
At best, they were getting $1,
a
third of that record. So if someone can create a method whereby the artist can get a fairer share of the intellectual property, that would be not a bad thing.
Welcome to Starwire.
Well, that's why I interjected into your, because I can speak from experience.
Of course you can.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what we're building, and not just for rewards for the artists themselves, but also the community that supports them, because behind the story of every artist, there was the start. Who were the people who got behind that band and backed it? The fans who, created the energy to get them launched, to put them on the launching pad. And I think that's part of what we're building. So, when we look at already what we've started to build, you can see on this page, these are our asset-backed NFTs. Yeah. The internet's running a bit slow. So we see here an NFT, it's art, but we added a little additional tech part to it, in that there is assets backing these tokens. So not only when someone owns one of these do they get access to the projects that are being released through Starwire, the future albums, the future movies that are coming up, and in the next two next Tuesday shows that we have coming up, we're going to be talking about one of the films and one of the music projects that we're going to be releasing in future days. And the cool thing is, it's all here represented in one of these tokens. If you're holding one, you're holding a reward from the future revenues from those films. We're going to be rewarding our community, not just going out and, there's lots of other cool project, Bulls on the Block. I know some of you people in the audience listening, you own some of these, and these are super cool. to own. We want to not only bring that element of having a very engaged community where you guys are having fun, but also the tech behind it, where we're actually pushing the artistry forward, the creativity. And not only will the bands and the musicians benefit from it, but you, the audience, the people who are holding our NFTs, or what we call fractional ownership. You people, we have rewards for you, and it's going to be fun just to build this community together. And even that's what these conversations are about on nights like this. We want to hear what's the magic, that went into creating these great songs, and then also tapping into the wisdom of guys like Gary, saying like what went right, what went wrong, and how can we pave a way for the future generation to succeed.
Let's open it up to the chat. If anybody there has any questions for Gary, I know that he's got to catch a flight early, and before he goes, we'd really like to get your questions answered. So people in the chat, if you've got some questions, thanks, Garnet. We've got about 9 minutes left, and then Marty and I will join you in the VIP lounge in the Discord channel. So pop some questions in there, and I'll start, Gary, saying that on American Woman, you actually used 2 bass drums. Were you playing double bass, and how did that start? Where did you?
Because Buddy Miles was playing with the Electric Flag, and I had their album, and he was playing double basses, and I had done it before because Louis Belson, the jazz drummer, was a double bass drum player.
Amazing.
But this is the first time I heard it in pop music, so that's where it came from. I was listening to that album when I came up with that drum pattern. So yeah.
I remember listening to that going, how did they get that? How fast is that guy's foot? That was so cool.
Well,
and of course, we didn't have video in those days, right? It was just, what can you hear through the record, through the vinyl?
Yeah.
Right.
But that's really, it was an inspiration from him, how he was using them on the Electric Flag album. Go out and find it if you can.
Yeah.
It's an interesting album.
Christopher Knight says, did you have a drummer that you patterned your style from?
Buddy Rich in the early years. He was one of my, and of course, when I started playing in 1949, professional, there was no rock drummers.
Yeah.
No.
But later on, I would learn to love, all the guys that. Jim Gordon played on all the Everly Brothers stuff when he was like 15 years old.
Here's a question, Gary.
Yeah. So Neil Peart, I'm so sorry that he's not here. He was an incredibly unique drummer that used his drumming style, had all kinds of music evident through the style. He was as a matter of fact, I would sit down and go, what is he doing? I don't understand how he's doing that.
Jason's asking, what was your favorite venue to play? I'm sure there's been many, but
yeah, I loved playing the Fillmore East when we did that show there. That was a great show, and the SARS concert was Toronto was a terrific. There's been so many, and then when we played the Alma Combo in Toronto, that's a whole different world. The Stones played there. Why did they play there? Because we always want to go back to those early days of where we played in clubs and bars, where you were close to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You could see the whites of their eyes.
That's right. You could see the whites of their eyes. It's very true.
There's for me, the such thing as the best drummer. Who's the best football player?
Oh,
Who's the greatest hockey player in Canada? I mean,
yeah.
It's like there are so many. As I said earlier in this broadcast,
Yeah.
I'm still trying to learn to be a great drummer like Charlie Watts and Ringo Starr were. But then again, I like so many drummers out there that Steve Gadd is one of the greatest of all time because he could play all kinds of music, jazz, rock, whatever you want to play, he can play it. So
Christopher,
it's almost an unanswerable question.
Christopher's asking, what drum set should I get? He's always wanted to find out.
I played from my first set was a Slingerland, then I played Ludwig, then I played Gretsch, then I played Rogers, then I played Yamaha Sonar, and now I play DW exclusively. They're one of the finest drum sets in the world, made in America, and to me, that's a personal taste. Whatever drum set you sit behind and feel like it's part of your body, that's the drum set to have.
I got a question.
Great answer.
I got a question, Al. What do you think of McCartney's drummer now? He's gone solo, of course, and Ringo's solo. He's the drummer. But what do you think of Abe Laborel Jr., McCartney's drummer?
Yeah, I mean,
powerhouse.
Yeah, there's so many great drummers.
Powerful drummer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed when I listen to them, and you know, I listen to a lot of jazz drummers too.
Remember the story you should tell the fans when we were at AOD Drums, and they brought you these big, thick drumsticks, and they said, "Here, Gary, you'll never break these." And you said what after that? What was your reply?
I can't remember. You'll tell
me. You said to them, "You don't think so?" And there was drums there, and Ray Ayotte and his brother were there, and you and I were there because you went down there to pick up those big tubular drums and that, and we were going out on tour with Cummings. And you said, "Give me those sticks." And they said, "Guaranteed, you got to take a box of these on tour with you because you'll never break them." And you said, "Watch." And you hit maybe 3-4 times all around the drums. Then you smashed the snare and you broke the sticks. They had never seen anything like that. And it was like, send them back to the manufacturer. I'm not interested, kind of a thing.
Yeah, well, I also smashed my hip at the same time it was broken.
Really?
Oh.
That was in my gorilla era.
In your Big Al.
That's it.
Big Al, Lil Al.
Those were made by ProMark, those drums.
That's right. Yeah, remember those tubular drums. There's some scenes with Cummings on tour with those.
Yeah, there's somewhere in my archive there.
Yeah, there's a picture of you playing.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, you've been tremendous.
I couldn't lift one with both arms now.
No, they're heavy. Now, we know you've got to go because you've got a trip to take and go out on tour. And we've got to go in a couple of minutes. So Colin and I...
We got to do the giveaway.
Now. We're going to do the giveaway. And Gary's going to give you a CD.
Well, that would be the latest CD from this band that I have now. And the album would be called The Future Is What It Used to Be. And
wow.
The album was written and designed, and we did it analog with all analog equipment. We used all the same equipment we did on all the hit records. We used the Neve console, and all the outboard gear was like we used in the 70s and late 60s and early 70s. I used a set of Camco drums from 1970. We used Paul McCartney Hofner bass on cuts, and it was written to sound like the music we listened to from all the great bands like the Stones and the Beatles and Elton John and the Eagles and you know all these great bands that made us want to be rock musicians. So when you listen to this album, you'll hear all these influences that will remind you of those days gone by, those the way it was.
Let's do hashtag guess who. And if you put hashtag guess who, there we go. That will be the way to get into the draw.
And if anybody's interested in a sample of those, there are 3 video cuts on the guesswho.com, our website, and you can take a look at the video of those. There's three of the cuts off the album up there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Gary. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I know you're excited about going on the road. Is this your first gigs back since the whole lockdown?
No, we played last year. We played Sturgis. You know, the big controversy.
We played it with Randy, Colin, and myself.
Yeah, we played there, and we did like during the course of the year and a half, we did like 4 dates. But now we're back. We'll do 50 dates before the end of the year this year.
Wow.
So unless they cut down. But right now I've got to go have my warm milk before I go.
Okay.
All right. Let's do the draw. Garnet, you want to come back on while Gary's still on, and then we'll say goodnight. It's coming up to it's 1 minute past. Here we go. Hashtag guess who.
Yeah.
And once again, Gary, the name of the record
is The Future Is What It Used to Be.
Yes.
Is everybody in? Here we go. On your mark.
I want to enter.
Here she comes. Entry, 14 entries. Who's it going to be? Will it be?
Will it be Austin again?
Always win.
Can't be Austin.
Austin or Christopher. Kevmo.
All right, Kevmo. All right. Congratulations.
Didn't he comment that he stayed up all night and he finally got it? He found us?
Yeah. Yeah, what was that?
The comments tonight.
Is Kevmo on the East Coast?
I don't know. You would.
Well, it's great. Congratulations, Kevmo. And thank you so much, Gary, once again, for coming on with Startalk, which is, this is our 7th episode, and we're just getting going. And by the chats getting bigger every night. And we're excited to hear the stories. And, Godspeed, my friend. Have a great tour.
Yeah, and never forget your old friends.
That's right. We never forget you.
Never forget
us. Lest we forget. Not a chance.
Thanks, everybody. Good night, and we'll see the star holders in the Discord group.
Right. And good night, Gary, and thank you very much for being here. Safe trip. Say hi to everybody, and we'll talk soon. And we'll forward you the winner and the address, and you can have Leonard send it out on the road.
Rock on, baby.
Here it comes. You're the man.
Is this the right song?
Do the live one that was right there with Gary playing drums. That was a great one.
Where is
I think it was Share the Land, that one you did on TV. That was so good.
Where is that one, Gar?
That was fantastic.
Everybody's gone.
No.
He's just going to queue up a video for the outro. Are we still live? It's still going?
Yeah, we're still going.
Can't stop us.
Non-stop rocking. We can't stop rocking.
I got my drums right behind me here. I
can set up and play. Well, listen. Concerto. Practice off. Do a Charlie Watts.
Thanks, Kevmo. Thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Will. Thanks, Maria. Who else? Grant. Thanks. for being here. Dan, great show. Christopher, once again, thanks for dropping by. Always good to see you in the chat. Crypto Life, My Crypto Adventures.
Wow.
Richie,
Getting bigger.
Philip.
I don't like all this crypt talk.
Crypto, you gotta like crypto.
Crypto
No.
Talk.
No crypt.
Crypt Talk.
Tales from the crypt. Songs from the
Tales from the crypt. I'm not inside.
Stories from the crypt.
Yeah.
That's right. I was working in a lab late one night. And my eyes be felt in the other side.
There we go.
Get that
There's
yellow hat back.
Praise.
There we go. Look at
Wow.
there's that famous leather jacket, Gary, with the fringes.